1. America is booming. Steel, smoke, and skyscrapers define the cities. But so does poverty. A handful of industrialists and bankers rule from behind closed doors, their power eclipsing presidents. Their fortunes are vast, their secrets deeper. But scrutiny is growing. Journalists and the public are restless. The ground shifts beneath these titans. Their world of privilege is threatened by exposure and reform. In this climate of wealth and suspicion, our story begins, with 6 men at the top, about to vanish. Six men, each a pillar of power. Aldrich, the political mastermind; Andrew, the economist; Vanderlip, the banking giant; Davison, the enforcer from Morgan; Strong, the operational genius; Warburg, the European central banking expert. Together they form a secretive alliance, controlling money, policy, and the future. Their influence is unmatched, their motives hidden. This is the shadow government of American finance. Autumn 1910. The nation is distracted. Strikes, politics, headlines. Quiet telegrams arrange a hunting trip for these 6 men. No sportsmen, just power brokers. Secrecy is absolute. Pseudonyms, hidden guest lists, and strict instructions. Arrive alone, tell no one. Public outrage would be instant if discovered. Their only hope is total invisibility. A private train car waits in New Jersey, far from prying eyes. The stage is set for a journey that will change everything. A foggy, cold night. Aldrich's private rail car waits in silence. The men arrive in disguise, carrying bags and shotguns they'll never use. Inside, tension is thick. They're fugitives from their own world, risking everything. The train slips into darkness, its passengers vanishing from history. For 2 days they are ghosts, isolated, unseen, and on the brink of a secret mission. The rendezvous is set. Hoboken rail yards, late November, under cover of fog. Each man arrives alone, blending into the night, stripped of privilege and entourage. The risk is enormous. A single misstep could expose them. They cross the threshold from power to anonymity, leaving their old lives behind. The cold night is more than weather. It's the atmosphere of their secret. The Alda is a fortress. Luxury inside, secrecy outside. No greetings, just silent nods. Disguises are shed, but unease lingers. A trusted steward ensures no light escapes. The car is a black box on rails. Supplies are stocked, the route planned to avoid attention. This is a ghost train. Aldrich boards last, signaling the point of no return. The journey begins. 6 men, 1 secret, and a mystery that will echo through history. To the outside world, the manifest for the Alda listed a party of sportsmen. The names were common, unremarkable, and entirely fictitious. This was a crucial layer of the deception. In the event that the train was stopped or its passenger list inspected, it would appear to be nothing more than a routine private charter for a hunting holiday. Senator Aldrich, a man who understood the mechanics of power, knew that the most effective lies are wrapped in mundane details. The creation of these false identities was not left to chance. Each name was carefully chosen to be forgettable, to blend into the background of everyday life and deflect any form of scrutiny. The men themselves were instructed to use pseudonyms, even among each other, for the duration of the journey. This strange rule served a dual purpose. It was a practical security measure, preventing any accidental slip of the tongue within earshot of the train's crew. But it was also a psychological tool. By shedding their own powerful names, Aldrich, Vanderlip, Warburg, they were reinforcing the absolute secrecy of their mission. They were no longer titans of industry. They were Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones, members of a nameless, faceless collective. This act of renaming themselves was a constant, sober reminder of the stakes involved in their clandestine enterprise. The ruse extended to their luggage and equipment. Packed alongside their business papers and confidential documents were brand new, expensive shotguns and hunting gear. The guns were a prop, a piece of stage dressing to make the story of a duck hunting trip plausible. The men, most of whom had never fired a gun in their lives, handled the weapons awkwardly. It was a strange sight. The most powerful financiers in America, men who could move markets with a word, now carrying firearms they didn't know how to use. The shotguns were a silent, heavy testament to the elaborate lengths they were going to in order to conceal their true purpose. This charade created a surreal atmosphere inside the train car. During the day, they were figures of immense power, poring over complex financial charts and drafting documents that could reshape the nation's economy. But if the train were to slow or stop near a populated area, the papers would be hidden and the shotguns would be brought out. The men would adopt the casual posture of wealthy sportsmen, ready to discuss weather patterns and the migration of waterfowl. They were living a double life, confined within the moving walls of the Alda, a strange and tense performance for an audience that they prayed would never appear. Before they vanished into the night, each man had to orchestrate a quiet exit from his own life. These were not simple goodbyes. They were carefully constructed deceptions. To their families, they spoke of urgent, unforeseen business trips to different parts of the country. Some claimed a trip to the west, others a conference in the north. To their business associates and secretaries, they left strict instructions that they were not to be disturbed under any circumstances. They created a web of conflicting stories, a deliberate cloud of misinformation designed to confuse anyone who might try to find them. This was the final, personal act of disappearance. The emotional toll of this deception was immense. These were men with wives, children, and complex social obligations. Leaving without a true explanation, armed with a lie, was a profound act of isolation. Imagine the final dinners at home, the conversations filled with unspoken truths. The men had to maintain a facade of normalcy, discussing future plans they knew they might not be present for, all while the weight of their secret mission pressed down on them. Each handshake, each embrace, was a silent farewell. They were leaving their world behind, and they could not even say a proper goodbye to those they were leaving. For men who prided themselves on control, this period of departure was a masterclass in surrendering it. They had to place their absolute trust in a handful of confidants and in the integrity of their own lives. They cut off all communication. Telegraph offices and telephone exchanges, the very networks that formed the nervous system of their empires, were now off limits. For the duration of their journey, they would be ghosts in their own lives. Their offices would run without them, their families would worry in private, and the world they commanded would continue to turn, oblivious to their absence. This strategic retreat into silence was the most dangerous part of the plan. A single concerned wife making a call to a business partner, a secretary comparing notes with another, could cause the entire house of cards to collapse. The 6 men were gambling that the walls of secrecy they had built around their personal and professional lives would hold firm for the duration of their mission. As they slipped out of their brownstone mansions and into the cold November night, they were not just leaving for a trip. They were performing a vanishing act, a final quiet departure before the train carried them away into history. With a low groan of metal and a sudden jolt, the Alder began its journey. The train moved slowly at first, cautiously navigating the complex web of tracks in the Hoboken yards. It passed rows of silent freight cars and darkened warehouses, a single lighted carriage slipping through an industrial graveyard. Then it joined the main line. The rhythm of the wheels quickened, settling into a steady, hypnotic beat. Click-clack, click-clack. It was the sound of escape, the sound of departure. The train was now a projectile, aimed at the heart of the American South, a world away from the canyons of Wall Street. Inside, the 6 men finally allowed themselves a moment of release. The first, most dangerous part of their plan was complete. They had gathered, undetected, and were now in motion. A bottle of brandy was opened. Glasses were filled, but there was no celebration. The mood remained somber, heavy with the gravity of their purpose. They sat in the plush armchairs of the lounge, the dark, rushing landscape outside a mere blur. The drawn curtains turned the windows into black mirrors, reflecting their own stern, anxious faces back at them. They were alone together, sealed in their cocoon of mahogany and secrets. As the train thundered south through the night, it crossed the invisible line that separated the industrial north from the rural south. The landscape changed. The dense urban sprawl of New Jersey and Pennsylvania gave way to the sparse fields and dark forests of Virginia and the Carolinas. They passed over great steel bridges spanning black rivers, their passage marked only by the locomotive's lonely whistle echoing in the darkness. They sped through sleeping towns where the only light came from a single lamp at a deserted station platform. The world outside was unaware of the immense power hurtling through its midst. This journey south was a journey into a different America. It was a land that was slower, older and more mysterious, a land of swamps and coastal marshes, of long memories and deep-seated traditions. For the men on board, creatures of the fast-paced modern northern city, it was like traveling to a foreign country. They were moving deeper and deeper into a territory that was not their own, toward an unknown destination on a remote island shrouded in fog. With every mile, they left their world further behind. The train rolled on, a dark vessel carrying its 6 passengers south, into the heart of the mystery. The journey south began in secrecy, the Alder blending into the endless river of steel. Inside, 6 men sat in a gilded cage, isolated, tense, and burdened by a monumental secret. Surrounded by luxury, they felt imprisoned, their conversations hushed, their thoughts heavy. The train was their steel cocoon, transforming them, preparing them for what awaited at journey's end. As night deepened, the train became a vessel of shadows and whispers. The windows, now black mirrors, reflected grim faces, conspirators, fugitives from the world they built. Each man was haunted by the what-ifs. The click-clack of the wheels sounded like a ticking clock, counting down to an unknown fate. In this darkness, a secret idea was born, one that would reshape America. As dawn broke, the train crossed into the Carolinas, leaving the industrial North behind. Vast pine forests and weathered barns replaced bustling towns. It was a land haunted by ghosts of its past, a world apart from the men's modern ambitions. They were ghosts passing through a land of ghosts, reminded of the stakes and the limits of their power. For 2 days, the Alda was a world without news. No newspapers were brought on board, no telegrams were sent or received. The stock ticker, a device that was the very pulse of their professional lives, sat cold and silent in a corner of the lounge. This enforced ignorance was a strange and unsettling experience. These were men who thrived on information, whose fortunes depended on knowing everything before anyone else. Now, they were willingly blind and deaf to the world. Markets could be crashing. Political alliances could be shifting. Their own companies could be facing crises, and they would have no knowledge of it. The silence was a heavy blanket. This sensory deprivation had a profound effect on the group's dynamic. With no external distractions, they were forced to rely entirely on each other. The small enclosed space of the train car became their entire universe. The subtle shifts in mood, the unspoken tensions, the alliances and rivalries, all were magnified. Henry P. Davison, the commanding Morgan partner, found his authority tested by the quiet intellectualism of Paul Warburg. Senator Aldrich had to navigate these powerful personalities, his role shifting from a political operator to the careful steward of a fragile, high-stakes coalition. The silence forced them to confront their own dependencies and frictions. The absence of information also bred a unique form of paranoia. Every unexpected slowing of the train, every unfamiliar noise from outside, sparked a moment of shared anxiety. Was it a routine signal stop, or had they been discovered? Was that a railroad worker on the tracks, or someone sent to watch them? They were operating in a vacuum, and in that vacuum, their imaginations filled the void with potential threats. They had built their plan on a foundation of absolute secrecy, and now they were living with the psychological consequences of that choice. The silence was not peaceful. It was the sound of a held breath, sustained for hundreds of miles. This period of isolation was a crucible. It tested their resolve and forged them into a more cohesive unit. By the second day, the initial awkwardness had given way to a shared, grim purpose. They began to talk more, not of small things, but of the great task that lay ahead. They laid out charts and documents on the dining table, the clicking of the wheels a metronome for their quiet, intense discussions. The weight of the world's silence forced them to create their own world, with its own rules and its own singular objective. They were no longer 6 individuals. They were becoming the committee, a secret body ready to write its own laws. On the final leg of the journey, the train reached the marshes of Georgia, where fog clung to the windows and the world outside dissolved into gray and green. The men stepped onto a lonely pier, their city shoes out of place, surrounded by the sounds of the marsh. A silent boat waited, ready to carry them into the mist and the unknown. The small motor launch cut through the fog, leaving the mainland behind. 6 men huddled on wooden benches, silent and uneasy, as the boat drifted through a gray void. Slowly, a dark shape emerged, the wild, untamed island. No lights, no welcome. Only secrets awaited them on this hidden shore. As they stepped onto the dock, the journey ended. They were truly alone, marooned at the edge of the world. Led from the dock along a winding oyster-shell path, they entered a grove of ancient oaks draped in Spanish moss. The path opened to the Jekyll Island clubhouse, an enormous fog-shrouded mansion, deserted and silent. Inside, shadows and silence reigned. The island was a fortress, the clubhouse its keep, isolated, secret and waiting. 6 powerful men gathered in a private dining room, agreeing to use only first names, stripping away titles and identities. In the firelit room, they became equals, forging a pact of anonymity. For 9 days, their public personas vanished, replaced by a secret society, united by a single purpose. They raised their glasses in silent acknowledgement. The work could now begin. The work began in a secluded library, heavy curtains drawn, electric lamps glowing. The air thickened with cigar smoke as men debated, argued, and collaborated late into the night. Paul Warburg led, others challenged and refined ideas, urgency driving them. From chaos, a blueprint emerged, a plan for the Federal Reserve, drafted in secrecy to change history. The island tightened its grip. Days blurred into nights, the outside world fading away. The men, isolated in fog and silence, grew pale and anxious, haunted by the magnitude of their secret work. When they finally left, the island's mark and their secret would follow them forever. 6 powerful men vanished from Jekyll Island. Their launch never returned. No crime scene, no ransom, no bodies, just a void. Weeks passed, unease grew, and the world tried to forget. A railroad worker recalled a private car shunted aside, men boarding a boat in the mist. The trail led to Jekyll Island, and then stopped, lost in fog and secrecy. Months into the investigation, a crucial clue surfaced. A telegram found in Brunswick, Georgia. It read, "The hunt was a success. The specimens are secured, awaiting transport." Signed, Davison, one of the missing men. The message hinted at a secret plan, code words, and something called Extraction Plan B. The Brunswick telegram turned a missing persons case into a chilling conspiracy. A wild theory emerged. The 6 men hadn't vanished against their will. They orchestrated their own disappearance. They faked their deaths, leaving behind a radical plan, the Federal Reserve, too controversial to claim. Not victims, but master manipulators. Their vanishing was the final brilliant illusion. A darker theory claims the 6 men behind the Federal Reserve were not architects but victims, betrayed from within or by the powerful institutions they served. The secret meeting on Jekyll Island was real, but not all were meant to leave alive. The House of Morgan, National City Bank, and Rockefeller Empire had the most to gain. The island became their tomb, its fogs concealing a terrible secret of betrayal and murder. The 6 men who secretly designed the Federal Reserve vanished, leaving only theories and a ghostly legacy. Jekyll Island returned to silence, its secrets lost in the fog. Their story endures, a chilling mystery echoing on a deserted shore. Over a century ago, 6 powerful men vanished into history, leaving behind a legacy of silence. Their secret meeting birthed the Federal Reserve, a force shaping the world to this day. The silence around their disappearance is their true legacy, an institution built on mystery, its origins forever shrouded in shadow. Time moves on, but their story remains, hidden in the quiet. The Six Titans mystery isn't just about their fate, but the nature of power itself, an unseen hand shaping history from the shadows. Whether by grand deception or betrayal, their story reveals a world where history is scripted in secret, far from public eyes. The Six Titans leave a chilling question. What other unseen hands have shaped our world? Jekyll Island, once the secretive playground of the ultra-rich, is now a public park. Tourists walk the same oyster-shell paths past moss-draped oaks and stay in the grand clubhouse, now a hotel. Yet a mystery lingers, clinging to the air like the humid fog. The island keeps its secrets, its beauty masking a story of absence, silence, and a mystery never fully told. The Six Titans vanished without a trace, powerful men erased from history, leaving only legend and questions behind. Their story is a haunting myth, 6 men, a foggy island, and a mystery that endures, unsolved and unforgettable. All that remains is the chilling shadow of their disappearance, a secret lost to time.